Sometimes the calmest waters hide the darkest secrets. Sometimes the ones we love the most, the ones we trust with our lives, are the very ones we should fear. On a peaceful Australian lake, a kayaking trip turned deadly. What looked like a tragic accident was, police say, a chilling betrayal. A years-long deception. A $1 million plot for murder. This is the story of Graeme Davidson, a former British Army major, a disciplined man with a strategic mind, and, allegedly, a heart cold enough to turn love into a lethal transaction. Murder on the Lake, the life insurance plot of Graeme Davidson. November 27th, 2020. Lake Samsonvale, a serene reservoir just north of Brisbane, Australia. It's a haven for weekend adventurers, families picnicking, joggers circling the shore, kayakers gliding across the glassy water. The air is warm, the sky clear. A perfect day for an escape. That morning, Graeme and Jacqueline Davidson launched their kayak onto the lake. Married for over 2 decades, they seemed like any other middle-aged couple enjoying a hobby they'd picked up during the pandemic. Jacqueline, 54, paddled with confidence. Graeme, 57, steered from behind. To onlookers, they were a picture of quiet contentment. But beneath the surface of that calm lake, something was wrong. Terribly wrong. That afternoon, emergency services received a frantic call. Jacqueline had gone overboard. Her kayak had capsized, they said. Bystanders pulled her limp body to shore and performed CPR, their hands pressing desperately against her chest. But it was too late. Jacqueline Davidson was declared dead at the scene. The official report called it a drowning, a tragic accident. A loving husband left to mourn his wife. No foul play, no suspicion, at least not at first. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, detectives began to wonder, was this really an accident? Or was something far more sinister lurking beneath the surface? Graeme Davidson wasn't your average grieving widower. He was a former British Army major, a man trained in discipline, strategy, and survival. Over 6 feet tall, with a commanding presence, he was someone who knew how to take control, someone who planned every move with precision. After Jacqueline's death, Graeme didn't stay in Australia to mourn. He didn't surround himself with family or friends. Instead, he left, quickly. Within months, he'd relocated to Thailand, a country known for its low cost of living and, for some, a place to disappear. His explanation? Grief. A need to start fresh. A desire to leave the pain of loss behind. But Queensland police weren't convinced. Something about Graeme's swift departure felt off. Too calculated. Too convenient. And so they started digging. It began with a single thread, the life insurance. Not one policy, but multiple. Over 1 million Australian dollars in total. Roughly 480,000 pounds. Policies taken out on Jacqueline's life, with Graeme as the sole beneficiary. Within weeks of her death, he began filing claims. Some were paid out, others were flagged and denied, raising the first red flags. Then came the inconsistencies. Witnesses at Lake Samsonvale recalled Graeme's behavior that day as oddly detached. He didn't scream for help immediately. He didn't dive into the water to save his wife. His account of the kayak capsizing didn't align with the evidence. Experts analyzed the lake's conditions, calm, with minimal wind. Hardly the kind of weather to flip a stable kayak carrying 2 experienced adults. More troubling, the physical evidence. Jacqueline's body showed no signs of a struggle. The kayak wasn't damaged or waterlogged, and the water where she drowned was shallow, just a few meters deep, close to shore. For someone to drown so quickly, so silently, while her husband watched, It wasn't adding up. Detectives began to suspect that Jacqueline's death wasn't an accident. They believed it was staged. And the man behind it? Her own husband. Queensland police launched Operation Victor Harlow, a special task force dedicated to unraveling the truth. They brought in coroners, forensic analysts, marine experts, and financial investigators. Every detail was scrutinized, every lead pursued. They reviewed CCTV footage from nearby roads, searching for clues about Graeme's movements. They combed through phone records, tracking his calls and messages. They traced financial transactions, uncovering a trail of suspicious activity. Emails between Graeme and insurance companies revealed a man pressing for payouts, even as some claims were denied. The deeper they dug, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't a crime of passion or a spur-of-the-moment act. This, police say, was years in the making. A plan built on greed, executed with military precision. But proving it was another matter. Graeme was in Thailand, beyond their reach. And the evidence, while compelling, was circumstantial. For years, the case stalled. Until 2024, when a breakthrough changed everything. In early 2024, new witness testimonies emerged. People who'd been at the lake that day came forward with details they hadn't shared before. One recalled Graeme's eerie calm as he stood on the shore, watching the rescue efforts. Another noted that the kayak hadn't drifted far, odd for a vessel supposedly caught in a sudden upset. Forensic experts re-examined Jacqueline's autopsy. While drowning was the official cause of death, subtle inconsistencies raised questions. There were no signs of trauma, but the absence of water in her lungs was unusual for a drowning victim. Could she have been incapacitated before entering the water? The possibility sent chills through the team. Financial records sealed the case. Investigators uncovered evidence that Graeme had been in financial trouble before Jacqueline's death. Mounting debts, risky investments, and a lifestyle that stretched beyond his means. The insurance policies weren't just a safety net, they were a lifeline. Armed with this new evidence, police had enough to act. But there was one problem: Graeme was still in Thailand. In May 2025, Graeme Davidson made a fatal mistake. He returned to Australia, allegedly for family reasons. Perhaps he thought enough time had passed. Perhaps he believed the case had gone cold. He was wrong. On Sunday, May 4th, Queensland police swooped in. They arrested Graeme at a property in Brisbane. The charges were staggering: murder, classified as a domestic violence offense, and 2 counts of fraud. Footage of the arrest shows a man eerily composed. His face is a mask, stoic, unreadable. But behind those eyes, police say, is a calculated killer. A man who lured his wife onto that lake with a smile. A man who watched her die, knowing her death would make him rich. The game was over. Jacqueline Davidson was more than a victim. She was a vibrant woman of 54, known for her warmth and independence. Friends described her as kind-hearted, always ready with a laugh or a listening ear. She loved nature, hiking, gardening, and in recent years, kayaking. It was a hobby she shared with Graeme, a way to reconnect during the isolation of the pandemic. To those who knew her, Jacqueline was fiercely loyal. She trusted Graeme completely, believing their marriage was a partnership built on love and respect. That's what makes this case so heartbreaking. On that November morning, Jacqueline thought she was spending a carefree day with her husband. She had no idea she was paddling toward her death. No idea that, to the man sitting behind her, she was worth more dead than alive. Her trust was her undoing. As of May 2025, Graeme Davidson remains in custody, awaiting trial in Brisbane Magistrates Court. He has not entered a plea, and his legal team has stayed silent. The prosecution's case is built on a mountain of evidence. Forensic reports, witness testimonies, financial records, and Graeme's own inconsistent statements. Detective Acting Inspector Steve Windsor, who led Operation Victor Harlow, called the investigation lengthy and arduous. It took nearly 4 years to untangle the web of deception. Incidents are not always what they seem, he said at a press conference. This was one of those cases. The trial is expected to be a media firestorm. Australia's domestic violence epidemic will take center stage, with prosecutors framing Jacqueline's death as the ultimate betrayal. This case isn't just about murder. It's about power, control, and the hidden face of domestic violence. Prosecutors are likely to argue that Graeme's abuse wasn't physical, but psychological, a slow, deliberate campaign to isolate and manipulate Jacqueline. They'll point to the insurance policies as evidence of his control. He didn't just insure her life, he commodified it. Her death wasn't a moment of rage, but a business decision planned with chilling detachment. The lake was the perfect stage. No cameras, no witnesses, just a man, his wife, and a plan to walk away rich. Graeme Davidson's case isn't unique. Life insurance fraud murders are a grim reality. They're crimes that disguise betrayal as grief, murder as misfortune. The motive is always the same: greed. Globally, suspicious insurance claims spike after unexplained deaths, especially among couples with financial strain. In the U.S., the FBI estimates that 1 in 10 life insurance claims involves fraud. In Australia, the numbers are similar. These cases are hard to prove. Killers stage accidents, exploit trust, and hide behind crocodile tears. But as Graeme's case shows, the truth has a way of surfacing. What drives a man to kill the woman he vowed to love? Criminologists point to a mix of narcissism, entitlement, and desperation. Graeme, with his military background, was used to control. He thrived on order, on bending circumstances to his will. But financial troubles can unravel even the most disciplined mind. For Graeme, the insurance policies offered a way out, a chance to reclaim the life he felt entitled to. Jacqueline, in his eyes, became a means to an end. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was a transaction, and that's what makes it so chilling. If the allegations are true, Graeme Davidson didn't just take Jacqueline's life. He exploited her trust. He turned their marriage into a motive, and he reduced love to a ledger. But justice, like water, finds its level. Time doesn't shield the guilty. Truth rises like bubbles from the bottom of a still lake. Jacqueline's story is no longer just a tragedy. It's a warning about the masks people wear, about the greed that festers in silence, and about the resilience of those who seek justice, no matter how long it takes. If this story moved you, hit subscribe. We dive into cases where the truth hides in plain sight, and where every detail reveals a deeper story. Thank you for watching.